Hello and welcome to the Times of India. You watching Global Pulse with me, Neha Khanna. Our big focus on the show tonight. It's the longest government shutdown in American history. But finally, there are signs that it's coming to an end. Thanks to a compromise or a caving in, depending on who you ask. On Sunday, 8 Democratic senators joined their Republican colleagues to break the impasse over US government funding that had resulted, as we said, in the longest ever federal shutdown in US history. This is only a first step towards reopening the government, but President Donald Trump has described the development as getting close to the end of the shutdown, which entered its 41st day today and has resulted in hundreds of thousands of federal workers furloughed, thousands of flights delayed or cancelled due to staffing challenges, and millions facing dwindling food assistance benefits. Senate Democrats had been withholding their support for a House-passed funding bill over healthcare subsidies, which they wanted extended. But the 8 Democrats who broke rank with their party leadership say they agreed to a handshake deal with the White House and Senate Republicans to back a stopgap measure to fund the government through January, in return for a promised future vote on those healthcare subsidies. However, here lies the catch. The Republicans have not pledged their support for extending these healthcare subsidies. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "However this vote turns out, this fight will and must continue." House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said, House Democrats will not support the funding bill when it returns to the House, where Republicans have a razor-thin majority to pass it without Democratic support. So what's this deal all about? The continuing resolution acts as a legislative vehicle to reopen the government and will extend government funding till the 30th of January next year. The legislation will also put an end to the mass firings of federal workers by the Trump administration during the shutdown, reverse those that have happened, and guarantee back pay. It also includes a prohibition on any additional layoffs by government departments until the end of January. The agreement also includes a larger funding package which will reinstate, among other things, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or SNAP, the food aid program which the Trump administration had ordered states to put on hold at least partially. The government shutdown, which is still in place, began on the 1st of October when Congress failed to pass new funding legislation, and as of mid-November, the federal government has been partially closed for over 40 days. Why did it start? The main point of contention was overspending bills and, crucially, the fate of the subsidies under the Affordable Care Act. Democrats insisted that any funding deal must include an extension of premium tax credits under this act. Republicans, backed by Donald Trump, refused to concede that condition before reopening the government. The House passed a continuing resolution that did not include the subsidy extension. The Senate, still subject to the 60-vote filibuster threshold, repeatedly blocked it as Democrats held out. The shutdown has taken a heavy toll. It has already impacted hundreds of thousands of federal workers who were furloughed or told to work without guarantee of pay. Key services such as airports, air traffic control, food assistance have been disrupted. For instance, according to the Federal Aviation Administration, thousands of flights were delayed or cancelled due to staffing and funding shortages. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or SNAP, which offers food aid to tens of thousands of Americans, saw funding jeopardized. According to one report, 42 million Americans faced disrupted benefits. On the economic side, the shutdown has drained billions from the American economy. Lost productivity, delayed services, uncertainty for the markets, and risked eroding job security for federal contractors, service workers, and others. So how and why did the Democrats blink? The Democratic Party is deeply divided. The Senate leadership, especially Chuck Schumer, opposed the deal, condemning it as a surrender of democratic priorities. Yet, as we mentioned, 8 Democratic senators, mostly centrists or from swing states, concluded that the impasse had gone too far The fallout was too severe and that reopening government was mandatory. Critics in the progressive wing were furious. They say accepting nothing but a pinky promise from Republicans isn't a compromise, it's capitulation. Internally, Democratic caucus lunchrooms were reportedly tense, some arguing that 40 days of shutdown agony simply to preserve leverage was politically risky and literally hurting the American public. So, in effect, moderate Democrats broke with their party's left flank and either forced or accepted a deal which they believe is the lesser of two evils. Is this a win for Donald Trump? Well, from a strategic standpoint, yes. The deal vindicates the Republican-led approach to opening the government first, then debating policy later. Trump had repeatedly blamed Democrats, telling them the shutdown will end when the Democrats give in. All they have to do is let the country open and we'll fix it.
We're getting work for shutdown. We'll never agree to do any to send the money or he wants to. Really pushing your San Diego to come to the party. And I think the Democrats understand that. And it looks like they're getting posted to turn down any over.
So politically, Trump can cast this as a victory. Democrats held the line, the shutdown dragged on, and now they blinked. The optics certainly seem to favor the Republicans. They forced the shutdown, made the demands, and got Democrats to fold. The progressive flank of the Democrats will likely feel that they bargained away too much for too little.
Today, the Senate voted to start reopening the government. We took a big step forward to protect the health care of tens of millions of Americans in exchange for funding through January 31st.
This agreement funds SNAP and food assistance programs, ensures that law enforcement, air traffic controllers, and other federal workers get paid, reverses the president's recent reckless layoffs and prevents them from happening in the future, and crucially, gives Congress a clear path forward to protecting people's health care.
But it's not without risks. The deal leaves unresolved key democratic goals like healthcare subsidies and cost relief. The promise of a future vote is vague, without guarantee of passage, and could come back to bite Democrats. Also, if service disruptions linger or federal workers suffer long-term harm, the political blame may shift. And the next funding deadline of January 30th looms large. The shutdown may technically end, but the underlying fissures remain. From the start, Republicans and Trump blamed Democrats for refusing to vote for a clean funding measure. Democrats counter-blamed Republicans for ignoring health care and forcing the country into shutdown. Meanwhile, within the Democratic Party, there were moderates saying, we must reopen now, and progressives saying, we'll not give up healthcare subsidies for nothing. House Democrats, led by Hakeem Jeffries, issued sharp warnings that acquiescing now would be a betrayal of working families. The Democrats split, the minimal concessions they secured, and the optics of they blinked, all gave Republicans a win. For the American economy and millions of individuals, federal workers, food aid recipients, travelers, the relief is tangible and urgent. But the story is far from over. The next deadlines, the deferred healthcare fight and the political fallout loom large. In Washington's halls, the message is clear. The shutdown is ending, but the battle over budget, priorities, and power is simply entering its next phase.